Matt, what's the Meghan McArdle drama? Take us into your world.
Oh, okay. I thought we.
Matt's super excited about this, and then we will play the Trump tweet game.
I can't believe this person's around.
That
honestly.
Meghan McArdle
Yeah,
exists.
it's
That
just
she's
like,
actually like a sentient thing.
It's too. But at the Washington Post, it's just too much.
Actually, should we play this clip of the New York Daily News layoffs first, because that kind of leads into what McArdle's going off about.
Yes. So this is actually a very good clip. The New York Daily News, I believe, laid off half of its newsroom. Is that correct? Is that maybe more? And it's basically they have been acquired. There's a conglomerate called Trunk, I believe it's called. Trunk. Literally called Trunk.
They sound like the good guys, right?
Yeah, they sound great. They sound like a dumb version of FANG, which was that delightful acronym you introduced us to.
Is what over? It's over.
So, and you know, look, newspapers still really matter. Just as Sinclair's turning a string of local cable stations into pure right-wing propaganda really matter in terms of voter attitudes, in terms of the demographics of people who read and watch these things. And basically, this is just a really solid and indignant clip of Michael Kay, who's a sports guy I don't know what, he's on ESPN now?
This is Yes, which I'm not sure what it stands for. It's not the Yankees Entertainment.
Yeah, but he's also got, I guess he's on ESPN Radio.
Oh,
and
yeah, that
Yes
must be
TV.
ESPN Radio, yeah.
Okay, Michael Kay is going to break down what happened with the New York Daily News outlets layoffs, and he's exactly right.
You know how many people are left in the sports section of the New York Daily News? 9 after the firings today. 9 people. When I was at the New York Daily News, do you realize that there were some Yankee games that there would be 9 people covering that game? Wow. Now they're not going to have a writer covering the New York Yankees. So a big company like Trunk, and I was reading a lot of stories today, where they have advisors that are getting paid $5 million a year, are firing people making $70 grand.
Yep.
And doing hard work to cover teams. They don't even deserve to own the New York Daily News. And if Peter teaches me today, and he will, I am canceling my subscription online. Who would ever buy this paper? Who would ever read this paper? And I know, everybody, I'm not dumb. I watch everything. I read everything. The big bad media has come under a real negative cloud over these last 2 years. And part of that is because of the partisan politics that are going on. And if you write something negative about the president says it's fake news, which completely casts a pall over all journalists. Don't believe it. People work hard. And if you don't have newspapers, you cannot keep government in check. And if you think this is a happy day, then you don't know what you're talking about. You're uneducated. The history of this country has been founded on the strength of a free press. And a monolith company like Trunk decides that they're going to just completely strafe the New York Daily News staff? And New York's going to stand by and buy the paper? Why would you buy the paper? We're going to get wire service accounts.
He's exactly right. Look, it wasn't appropriate, frankly, for that, polemic. But obviously, we can address the many own goals and failings of mainstream news outlets, which have already been compromised through corporate concentrations, corporate monopolies, their own just sort of like internal failings and limits in intellectual class and geographic culture that they hire and represent and promote. That's all true. But the other reality that he's articulating so well here is first of all, it's 100% right that these conglomerates are a threat to democracy and free expression in every way, shape, and form. And he also put his finger on the great synthesis between demagogic clown fascism of Donald Trump and the priorities of vulture capitalism. Because if Trump's Twitter account and his mind meld with his authoritarian base help feed the momentum for justifying gutting these news outlets for short-term bang-ups for holding companies. Awesome. We have a synergy of interest. And that, again, reinforces that in this predator capitalism, there is no fundamental contradiction. You might talk to, I don't know anything about Trump. You might talk to some Trump higher up who might be totally willing, maybe even on record, to say, oh, Donald Trump, so uncouth. You know, you're not supposed to say things like that about women or Muslims or Mexicans in public. Maybe they'll even do one better and say, oh, I disagree with kidnapping and terrorizing children. Okay, that's all posturing and branding. Their whole strategy for gutting newsrooms, destroying lives, diluting democracy, destroying the press is aided and abetted every day by this motherfucker saying fake news. And this lying, disgusting, corrupt scum saying fake news every day was facilitated and opened, unfortunately, by a media class that completely was asleep at the wheel and perpetuating all sorts of problems and inequalities in our society. And this also leads to an addition of Matt Leck harasses Meghan McArdle on Twitter.
She really is just completely odious as a human individual.
Yes.
So basically, she just decided, in her way, she's getting self-aware about this now, which makes it even more infuriating for a person like me. But all right, guys, it's the Daily News tweet storm you've all been waiting for.
Oh,
you can all exhale now, blah, blah, blah. Basically,
she's so disgusting. This is Meghan McArdle with her jujitsu nerdism.
She wasn't lying when she said it was a storm. My God.
I've only read about half of these.
So we know that obviously she's going to try to justify and intellectualify this obscene predator capitalism which destroyed the New York Daily News. Go ahead.
This is where I came in at. Somehow in the 20th century, newspapers figured out how to scam department stores into paying them to tell the local citizenry which city councilors were corrupt. It was a magnificent think for us. I mean, she's an idiot, so she has a typo. It was a magnificent thing for us and for America, but it is ending. In the words of economist Herbert Stein, have you heard of him, Griscom? Yeah, who gives a fuck?
I've heard of him. Maybe you ought to do your research.
If something can't go on forever, it will. It will stop. Well, journalists can't go on finding out stuff you need to know unless someone's willing to pay for it. Advertisers and readers no longer are. And what infuriates me so much about this is, like, the basic thing about fucking newspaper history in this country is, you know, that we subsidize it through, like, free postage and things like that. But she instead starts it as this weird little thing where all of a sudden department stores thought that it was valuable for them to have news in their department stores. Like, they start history at where it becomes convenient for them to start it.
Always, without fail. And you responded. Did you?
I said, tell it to to her, what says, if something can't go on forever, it will stop. I said, tell it to capitalism, you idiot ghoul. Also try combining search terms, newspapers, and postage. I went on to say, people like asymmetric info should be treated. This is Meghan McArdle.
Yes.
That's her annoying Twitter handle.
She's such a fucking idiot.
Should be treated with hostility and disrespect. I mean this.
Yep.
She exists to excuse the brutality of capitalism and serves no other purpose. They love the hollowing out of the media despite costless protests of solidarity because they know as courtiers they will be good.
That's exactly right. And that's her entire pseudo-intellectual sociopath project. And also just that sort of morphine drip into the brain. Because what's so interesting is, like, I think that there are fewer and fewer people that could even buy into this fantasy. And almost what it does is it's like, I don't know the right word for this take, but sometimes I'll hear somebody who is not, say they're actually basically pretty good. They have decent politics. And I mean actually decent politics, like better than they just don't like Trump. Like, they get that we need to have Medicare for all. They understand that oligarchy is a problem. But they'll occasionally come out of nowhere with, like, a take like this that's provided by some I like that. By some ghoul like Megan McArdle. And you realize that it's the emotional need to not fully confront reality. And she's a
Absolutely.
professional reality distorter on
Yes.
behalf of the worst people on earth.
She's a professional bedtime storyteller to people who want to believe in capitalism.
Precisely.
Does she really even have like a base? I don't know. It's like who are these Megan McArdle
Well,
readers?
that's another good example, right? Like she doesn't, but she writes for the Washington Post.
Yeah, I just don't.
Because that's the other thing is that there's always an opportunity. It's not even exactly failing up, right? If we're being honest, but there's a way to just sort of like mediocre and thrive, right? Like Elizabeth Brunig is a damn good writer who brings something different to the table. Agree or disagree? She is a serious talent who has a real understanding of America. And she gets to, for a variety of reasons, a lot of which the success of Bernie Sanders, frankly, and her own talent, she gets to get that spot. But if you're like, I write dumb, quote unquote, like I still do like late 90s counterintuitive blogs, which always end up justifying hierarchy, abuse, inequality, racism, sexism, you name it. Every couple of years, I write some like Malcolm Gladwell knockoff book. You're good. If that's the lane you choose, very little talent or intellect is required.
Might need to make some tough
Yeah.
choices.
Maybe you should think about it. Because you ain't getting my
I remember
spot.
during when I was at university, I saw Bhaskar debate Megan McArdle. And it was actually
God.
one of like the worst evenings of my life. I left
Because you were in the same room with Megan McArdle?
I was very excited because this was when Jackman was just sort of starting, and sort of before all this kind of acknowledgement for like the socialist left. So I was very excited for having them just watching this room, and Megan McArdle was like, "You're better off than the King of England in the 1500s."
Oh, my God.
Why? Because he really liked strawberries, but it was really hard for him to get strawberries. So did you know that you're better off than the King of England?
Oh, I love that shit. Did you know the King of England never rode a bicycle?
Did you know that even the poorest people in the United States live better than pharaohs? By the way, there's a really, 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 really easy way to counteract that particular line of argumentation, which is, okay, and we can do better. Like that literally requires two, like if your whole foundation rests on just as like, yeah, great, awesome. Life is generally improved than it was 3,000 years ago. Nice. Or like libertarians, like their case studies of like the liberalizing effects of capitalism and liberal democracy fused together is like always against like Prussia. It's like, right. Well, first of all, even within our world, we know that there are full social democracies that are far more democratized than what you're advocating for. And secondly, like, why don't we apply the same metric that you idiots always apply to, like, I don't know, phones or other gadgets? And I'll say, I'm in the ever improvement business. I think we can innovate and improve delivering for people and democratizing society. You keep innovation at different ways that you can download porn.
Yeah.
I apply innovation to improving the general welfare of society. But that's just me. I'm a socialist, so what the fuck do I know?